You meet her. You make her laugh. You text her good morning. You open up slowly, piece by piece, and for a moment, it feels like something real is beginning. And then, she changes. She starts replying late. Her tone cools down. The warmth in her eyes fades. You feel her slipping, but you don't know why. So you try harder. You become more available. You compliment more. You overthink every message, trying to fix something you don't even understand. And that's exactly when you lose her. Because here's the harsh truth. Interest doesn't die because you weren't good enough. It dies because you stopped being you the moment you felt close to having her. You see, in the beginning, you had something powerful. You were confident, calm, grounded. You didn't need her. You were choosing her. You had an edge, a center. But when she started getting closer, your fear kicked in. You began walking on eggshells. You changed how you spoke. You made her your focus, your prize, your mission. And without realizing it, you shifted the entire dynamic. You became safe, but not strong. Nice, but not respected. Available, but not desirable. That spark she felt in the beginning, it wasn't just chemistry. It was polarity. It was the tension between two people who had their own centers. And when you gave that up, she didn't feel drawn in, she felt burdened. Because love can't grow where one person abandons themselves to hold on to another. She didn't lose interest because you weren't caring. She lost interest because she couldn't feel you anymore. The real you. The man who had opinions, boundaries, direction. You tried to become her idea of what she might want. But she was falling for who you actually were. And when you disappeared into the performance of being perfect, she didn't break up with you. She just drifted. That's how most heartbreak happens. Not with a bang, but with a quiet fade. But if you've ever been through this, there's hope. Because awareness is where it all begins. And in the next part, we'll break down the invisible mistakes that kill attraction and how to get your power back. Attraction isn't maintained through effort alone. It's maintained through energy, through who you are when you're not trying. And one of the most common reasons women lose interest is because men unknowingly start trying too hard the moment they feel close to getting what they want. Let me explain. In the early stages, she feels your essence. You speak with clarity. You move with purpose. You don't ask for permission to exist. You just are. You have your routines, your values, your world. And she's curious about that world. But once you feel like she's into you, something subtle happens. You start sacrificing your center for connection. You stop saying no when something bothers you, because you don't want to scare her off. You stop doing the things that made you magnetic, your gym routine, your goals, your silence, and replace them with hours of texting and endless availability. You confuse closeness with chasing. But here's the truth most men never hear. Closeness doesn't require pursuit. It requires presence. And presence comes from staying rooted in who you are, even when you care deeply. When she senses that your need to be liked is stronger than your need to be respected, something in her shifts. It's not logical. It's instinctive. You go from being the man she admired to the man who needs her validation. And no one wants to date someone they have to constantly reassure. She doesn't lose interest because you're too nice. She loses interest because you traded your edge for acceptance. You may think you're being romantic, thoughtful, attentive. But if you've abandoned your self-respect in the process, it doesn't feel romantic to her. It feels heavy, desperate. Office. And that weight? It silently pushes her away. The solution isn't to become cold or manipulative. It's to remember this, the version of you that attracted her, the confident, grounded, imperfect but real version, is still there. He just got buried under the noise of trying to not mess it up. But the moment you stop performing and start showing up as you, that's when things can begin again. Not with her, necessarily, but with yourself. And that's the foundation you'll need to rebuild the kind of connection that actually lasts. Let's talk about polarity. Attraction between a man and a woman isn't just about charm or looks. It's about energetic contrast. Masculine and feminine energy pulling against each other in a rhythm that feels alive. And when you, as a man, collapse into the energy of neediness, that contrast dies. Why? Because when she feels like she has to lead the connection, when she has to manage your emotions, your expectations, your self-worth, the polarity flips, and she stops feeling safe to be soft, open, and feminine. She starts feeling like you are the one who needs emotional holding, like she's the one carrying the relationship forward. And that, over time, doesn't create desire. It creates exhaustion. Here's the part most men don't understand. You can be emotionally open without being emotionally dependent. You can share your truth without making her responsible for your wounds. The difference is presence. Presence says, I see myself. I know where I stand. I'm not perfect, but I'm solid. Neediness says, I don't know who I am without your response. Please tell me I matter. The first is magnetic. The second is a repellent. So when she pulls away, most men panic. They double down. Text more. Call more. Apologize for things that didn't need apologies. All because they think more effort will solve the distance. But distance is often her way of testing your center. Not in a manipulative way, but in a natural, unconscious way. She wants to feel that you're still the man she was drawn to, not a boy who falls apart when she blinks. When you can stand still in the storm. Not because you're pretending to be calm, but because you've built calmness into who you are. That's when respect returns. Not because you controlled her, but because you stopped trying to control her. And that shift changes everything. Because now, you're no longer chasing something fleeting. You're attracting something real. And that is what creates the kind of connection that survives the highs, the lows, and all the quiet in between. Now let's go even deeper. She didn't lose interest because you opened up. She lost interest because when you opened up, you collapsed. You made your emotions her responsibility. You handed her the steering wheel of your identity and said, please drive. That's not intimacy. That's emotional outsourcing. And here's the bitter truth. She might not even know why she's losing interest. She'll say things like, I don't know, it's just different now, or I need space, or I feel like I lost myself. But what she really lost was the man you were when she first met you. That man had purpose. That man had direction. That man had a spark that wasn't lit by her approval. It was lit by his own internal fire. But when that man turned her into his emotional oxygen, she couldn't breathe. And it's not her fault. Attraction isn't logical. It's primal. And when you start acting like she's your emotional parent instead of your partner, she will emotionally check out, even if she still cares about you. This is what so many men get wrong. They think love means being everything to someone. But real love doesn't drain. It doesn't suffocate. It breathes. It allows space. It honors polarity. It respects self-sovereignty. You don't lose her when you open up. You lose her when you disappear inside that openness, when your vulnerability becomes a sinkhole instead of a doorway. So what do? You build a relationship with yourself so strong that her love becomes a gift, not a crutch. You stop trying to fix the dynamic and start leading your own emotional state. Because women don't want perfection. They want presence. They want to feel your spine beneath your softness. They want to know that your calm isn't a mask. It's earned. And when they sense that, the energy shifts. She feels like she can relax into you again. Not because you said the right things, but because you became the right thing. You, rooted, steady, not performing, just showing up fully, as a man. So what does it look like when a man is rooted in himself? It looks like you not overreacting when she pulls away for a moment. It looks like you holding space, not demanding explanations. It looks like you living a life so full, so intentional, that her presence adds to it, not defines it. See, most men crumble the second they sense emotional distance. They panic, they beg, they overcommunicate. They try to prove their worth again, as if love is a contract that must constantly be re-signed. But when you're truly grounded, you don't flinch. You understand something most men never learn. Attraction lives in the unknown. It breathes in the mystery, in the quiet strength of a man who doesn't chase, but chooses. A man who doesn't seek constant reassurance, because he is the reassurance. You don't need to dominate her or outsmart her or keep her guessing with games. You just need to be so deeply at peace with who you are that you become the calm in her storm. Because here's the secret. When she senses that you can lead yourself, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, she wants to follow. Not out of submission, not because you're louder, but because you're clear. Clarity is irresistible. So instead of obsessing over how to make her like you again, become a man who likes himself again. Get back to your mission. Get back to your discipline. Reconnect with the parts of you that existed long before she showed up. Because that's the version she was drawn to in the first place. And ironically, when you stop making her the center of your world, she wants to become part of it again. Not because she pities you, but because she respects you. She sees you as a man who doesn't beg, who doesn't break, who doesn't barter his soul for closeness, a man who stands in his truth, even when it costs him comfort. And that is when the real attraction begins. She didn't fall for you because you were available 24/7. She didn't fall for you because you answered every message in seconds. She didn't fall for you because you sacrificed your time, your friends, your focus, just to keep her happy. She fell for the essence of you, the version of you that had fire in his eyes, that walked with purpose, that had edges, not just comfort. But when you started making her your mission, she stopped feeling the pull. Not because she wanted less love, but because she wanted truth. And truth doesn't live in desperation. It lives in depth. A man loses her when he loses himself, when he becomes afraid to say no, when he softens every part of himself to avoid conflict, when he trades his masculine presence for constant access. Women don't walk away from connection. They walk away from the death of polarity. When she can predict every word you'll say, when she feels more emotionally grounded than you, when she sees you abandoning your values to win her approval, that's when her heart closes. Not because she stopped caring, but because she stopped feeling you. And maybe no one ever told you this. You don't have to become less to be loved. You don't have to dim your voice, shrink your presence, or apologize for wanting more from life. The kind of woman who's worth your time will be drawn to your clarity, not your comfort. She'll admire the fact that you choose growth over validation, that you won't betray your path just to make her stay, because when you lead yourself with integrity, you invite in someone who's ready, not someone who needs to be convinced. And that changes everything. When a woman starts to pull away, most men panic. They start overcompensating. They write longer messages. They buy flowers, plan dinners, beg for reassurance. They believe they can win her back with effort. But they don't realize they're not being rejected for lack of effort. They're being rejected for abandoning who they were when she first felt drawn to them. Because in the beginning, you were rooted. You weren't trying to impress. You had your mission. You had space. And she entered your world because it was solid. But now, that world revolves around her. And that's a weight no woman wants to carry. Love is not about submission. It's about presence. The strongest men are not the ones who chase. They're the ones who lead. Not by force, not with ego, but with quiet certainty. They know their worth. They know what they want. And they don't fold just because someone seems to be drifting away. Because real attraction is never about clinging. It's about standing tall. It's about saying, if you're meant for this journey, walk with me. But if you're unsure, I won't stop walking. That's the man she remembers. That's the man who leaves a mark. And maybe, just maybe, she'll come back. Not because you begged, but because she felt you again. Because you stopped performing. Because you started being. So don't chase closure. Don't rewrite your soul to fix something broken. Don't try to be more agreeable, more available, more nice. Be more you. The version that isn't afraid to stand alone. The version that doesn't collapse under rejection. The version that doesn't need her to validate his strength, because it already lives within him. That's when things shift. That's when love returns. Or better yet, something real begins. Not because you chased her, but because you finally stopped chasing anything at all.